Today, we are diving deep into the world of brake pads. These brake pads are from Absolute Black and they are their graphene black pads. I have pushed these pads to their limits, covering over 2,000 kilometers with them. The journey took me through the stunning landscapes of Mallorca to the Apuan Alps in Italy. Now, let's address the big question. Are these brake pads better than the stock ones? Right after I was finished with these ones, I went right back to the stock Shimano LO5A pads. This way I could truly feel the differences between the two. So grab your helmet because we're about to break down my experiences and review these pads in various categories. Grab your helmets. First things first, let's address a noticeable difference in pad thickness from side to side. There was a slight but noticeable 1mm variance from one of these pads to the other. These can be attributed to a batch-specific issue or a broader manufacturing inconsistency. It's just something to keep in mind because that's how mine arrived. Stopping power. Did these pads bring anything extra to the table? The answer is a resounding no. After some hard testing and challenging descents with both of these pads, I couldn't discern any tangible difference between the two in terms of stopping power. They both delivered a perceivable similar level of stopping power. When it comes to brake feel, the term that comes to mind is drier. It's an unusual descriptor, but these pads did feel denser, providing a firmer pad feel compared to the standard Shimano ones. Personally, I actually appreciated this aspect quite a lot. Noise. Although they claim to be quieter, the Absolute Black pads do have a drier sound compared to Shimano's LO5A pads, which might be subconsciously why I felt a drier brake feel. However, when the pads and discs get wet, they both produce the same level of noise, making them equally as loud and as squealy when they get wet. When it comes to brake dust, prepare for an absolute bonanza with these Absolute Black graphene pads. After around every 300 kilometers of riding, your front fork becomes an absolute canvas for brake dust art.
You get quite a lot of dust around there. I only did one event with this, and you can see how dusty it is already. Admittedly, there was 250 Ks on that event.
But don't worry, it's an absolute breeze just to wipe it off. Compared to that, the Shimano pads take about twice as long or even 3 times as long sometimes to build up the same amount of brake dust that these Absolute Black graphene pads do. Now let's discuss heat buildup and brake fade. In this modern age of disc brakes, these pads were not pushed to their limits. Even during intense 20-minute braking sessions behind those sluggish coaches descending Sacalobro, or the testing 18% descents down the Apuan Alps. Heat buildup was never an issue, but neither was it for the stock Shimano pads. The main idea of these pads is that they have much more surface area to dissipate heat buildup from the brakes themselves, but after testing the pads back to back with the stock Shimano ones, I don't think it really needs much more heat dissipation. When it comes to mileage, the Absolute Black pads lasted roughly 2,000 kilometers. Meanwhile, my current Shimano pads are actually at the 2,500 kilometer mark and they're still going okay. I must add a pinch of context here, however. I did find myself on the brakes more frequently in the locations that I was riding the Absolute Black pads here. This was due to their more technical nature of the descents themselves. So the duration comparison might not actually be fair. Considering, however, one of their selling points is that the reduction of heat buildup helps them last longer, I'm not so convinced on that one. Now for a crucial factor, the price. The Absolute Black pads come in at a much steeper cost of around the £60 mark, while the Shimano pads you can find for a much more budget friendly, anywhere between £20 to £25. With that price in mind, would I buy these pads again? In all honesty, no. When all is said and done, it's incredibly challenging to put brake pads through an entirely fair comparison. But after comprehensive and subjective testing of these pads for myself, I'm not entirely convinced, especially considering they are 2.5 times the price of the stock Shimano pads. The pads themselves did perform well, but I cannot say that they outperform the Shimano pads in terms of mileage, brake feel, or stopping power. As a result of this, I cannot wholeheartedly recommend these pads to you. In the grand scheme of things, it's fantastic to see advancements and experimentation within the brake pad technology. While these pads could have potential, I'm not entirely won over. This has been my review of the Absolute Black Graphene brake pads. If this video was useful, give it a like for me. And if you want to see me unbox any Canyons, then the playlist is going to be on the screen here somewhere. This has been Cycling Unboxed. I've been Jason. I'll see you in the next video.